Today, I'd like to talk about deglobalization, our Navy, and what is our decisions going to be that are coming out later this month. So first, we feel and felt and have made videos. In fact, I pinned one onto TikTok, and I'll put them in underneath the videos on my other four channels, okay, in February of 2025, stating, and from an analyst in the Navy, that we can no longer maintain our Navy on a global basis. So I'll pin this article. But this gentleman, Panter, he is head of the U.S. Navy's power projection. So in other words, you send out your aircraft carriers, we're projecting power to the Gulf or wherever, okay? And he goes through all the numbers in here. They're fairly scary and daunting, but it's very convincing that we no longer have the ability to control the world's oceans like we did for 80 years. It's physically impossible for us to do it. And this has huge implications for us in the United States. Here is our 850 bases around the world, okay? And we no longer have the money or the physical capability of maintaining them. And as we have stated many times before on this channel, the biggest discussion that we should be having here is not who we're going to attack, but where we're going to pull back to, okay? Because we have to pull back. Now, there's an article in the Asian Times, and this has everything in it. It talks about the GDPs, the trade, defense, and blah, 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 okay? Has a lot of things. We're only interested in the defense thing today. We have a gentleman in our DOD. His name is Elbridge Colby, and he's the Undersecretary of War for Policy, okay? Now, at the end of this month, or the beginning of next month, his papers are going to be published on what he believes the strategy for the United States should be. But he put in a paper already, the Hegstep, and this paper says that we should pull back. We can no longer monitor the whole world. We don't have the capabilities. So he literally says, pull back from Europe, pull back from the Middle East, and concentrate on our hemisphere, and then pick a regional spot. And he thinks the regional spot should be Southeast Asia, where we gather our forces, okay? So when you think about it, we're gonna move from this, okay? But Colby says we shouldn't be fighting Russia, all right? So look at all this stuff. That'll go away as we pull back, all right? But we have to make these decisions. We have to have the discussion. Now, in Panter's paper, he was very interesting. It's not so much the military that's looking to maintain the presence on a global basis. As he says in there, this has become a politician thing of showing the flag, okay? So it's easy to send them out there, like we're in Venezuela. Tell me something. Do me a favor. Read this article, okay? And then tell me how comfortable you feel that we're off the coast of Venezuela. Because frankly, before I read this article, I wouldn't have given it a thought. After I read this article, when I watch what I'm doing, I feel sorry for our troops and Navy down there. I feel sorry for them. That's how stretched and exhausted they are, all right? But hey, don't listen to me. Read the guy who does this for the Navy. So his whole job is to do this for the Navy. Now, Colby, who writes this, he is known as the China guy, the anti-China guy, okay? And he has written this big paper called Strategy of Denial, which is all about being a realist about can we defend Taiwan. Now, in his confirmation hearings, he says that Taiwan is very important to the United States, but it's not an existential interest. I would argue as long as Taiwan is making all their chips, I would say that they are an existential interest. And that is why I believe that the U.S. government is backing Intel, and all our other companies are going to be in there to back them, because we're going to tell them to back them. Whether you agree with that or not, we cannot defend Taiwan anymore. Thereby, we are at risk of blowing our entire economy up. We cannot do that. Now, this has implications for everything in our world. Now, listen, we're in the first year of this 15 to 20-year transition, okay? We're in the first year. So you really have to think, what are we going to look like 5, 8, 10 years down the road? And that's hard to do, because where we're going, we've never been before, all right? So what's going to happen here is, in my opinion, is that as we pull back, think about what we're doing to all the countries out there. We're saying we're going to tariff everybody. And if you want access to our markets, then you will agree to those tariffs. We're going to force you to accept our treasuries at 0 interest rate and take them out 100 years. Everyone's scared to death of that. But more importantly, we are saying that we will not defend you, right? We did it to Canada, for God's sakes. You know, we want to take over Greenland and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? We actually don't have those capabilities at this time. All right? So if you read these articles, I think you'll come to the conclusion I did. We need to pull back and spend 10, 15 years getting ourselves in shape, because, as Panther points out, if we got into a real war with China, we're going to lose, right? And we don't want to lose. So this whole thing in the Marin Papers, or the Mar-a-Lago Accords, as they're now called, is that we can withhold our security. Well, how if we just pull back and we're not offering security? What are we going to do with the Europeans? We beat them over the head, we're gone, okay? I mean, so in a month, we're going to find out what our DOD thinks that our troops, where they should pull back from and where we should stay, okay? So remember, this is critical, because this will begin the discussion in our country that is badly needed. And I'm glad they're doing this, but the military is doing this for one reason and one reason only. They're afraid. They know the situation that they're in, physically and equipment-wise, and they can no longer allow this to continue. So what do you think? Tell me in the comments, and like and follow.